Hello, and my name is Kay Malady, and I am your moderator for this awesome panel, Indie Marketing Do's and Don'ts. And can I tell you how excited I am both to learn the do's, but also the don'ts, because I feel like I do a lot of don'ts and I need to make sure. We have a fantastic group with us today, and I'm very excited to hear what they say. And so first, I'm going to introduce them all. We will start with Tao Wong. Tao is a Canadian author based in Toronto who is best known for his System Apocalypse post-apocalyptic lit RPG series and 1,000 Li, a Chinese Yangjia fantasy series. His work has been released in audio, paperback, hardcover, and ebook formats and translated into German, Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, and other languages. More languages than I know. He was shortlisted for the UK Kindle Storyteller Award in 2021 for his work, 1,000 Li, The Second Sect. We also have Sara-Jayne Slack with us here. Sara is a social entrepreneur, public speaker, SEO nerd, and lover of stationery, which is a lost art, honestly, but using new things in paper. She works in digital marketing by day and manages the not-for-profit publishing house Inspired Quill by night. Sara can regularly be found discussing digital marketing, mentoring, and non-tokenistic diversity in publishing, but strives to listen at least as much as she talks. She's also scarily comfortable talking about herself in the third person. Can't wait for that. We can have an entire question. Tell me what Sara thinks. Kay thinks that's awesome. And she also believes that to-do lists breed when you're not looking. I bet that too, honestly. All right, we've got Chelsea Lockhart next. Chelsea is a Black writer of fantasy because she loves creating worlds, exploring relationships, and writing stories about Black girls who aren't all that nice. She is the founder of Written in Melanin LLC, which encompasses a weekly podcast and YouTube channel of the same name, and the Melanin Library, an online database of books written by Black authors. She's also a lover of video games and anime, so whenever she isn't reading or writing, or talking about reading and writing, she's watching anime, playing her Switch, and dreaming about the day her books get animated. And Chelsea was on a similar panel about indie marketing last year, and so I am so excited for those of you who didn't get to hear all of the awesome things she's going to tell us. And those of you who did, we can compare and see, what new did we learn from Chelsea? Last, but absolutely not least, we've got Wilson Guillaume. Wilson is one of the establishers of G7 Comics, a division of G7 Studio Production. This was actually established in 2002 by Kenneth Gaynor, Wilson himself, and Milton Howell in the beautiful Miami, Florida. They were artists their whole lives, and so they not only had a vision to follow in the footsteps of other great indie and mainstream comic companies, but their dreams included producing animation films and to calibrate with like-minded independent creators. Growing up, these creators would read comics, study animated films, and learn about great artists. This inspired them to find their own style of art and create a sense of purpose behind their storytelling. Dark Childs is the first of many projects that showcase their ability to bring a compelling story to life. We'll probably ask more from Wilson about the end because it sounds fascinating, because I know it's a supernatural thriller based on Haitian folklore and follows a little girl's journey from the brink of ruin to legendary rebirth. Now, with that said, we've got our panelists. I've got a list of questions, and then otherwise I'm going to try to stay quiet. I have a hard time doing that when I moderate, but let's just dig right in. First thing, what are the basic things that I need? I've never marketed before. Let's assume that, and that's actually probably pretty close to true. What are the basic things I need to be able to effectively market my book? Wilson, I love that. Tell me.
A product.
Smart. That is very smart. Okay. And I assume a good product, right? I mean, well, hopefully, but all right, product. That's true. What else do we need?
I would say that you definitely need to have like confidence in what it is that you're selling people, because it's just kind of like if I walk up to you and I'm selling ice to Eskimos, like, you know what you need today? Some ice. Why do you need ice? Yes, you can go get some for free, but it's not this ice. Okay. Let me tell you why. This is hand chiseled. Okay. Like you have to be confident in what you're selling someone, because it's like if you believe it, they'll believe it. And also if you believe in the products, like Wilson said, then it's just like you can actually talk about it and you can let people know that you're not wasting your money, because most people, generally speaking, making a blanket statement here, so like accept that for what it is, right? But most people if they are listening to your spiel, that's half the battle. They're already halfway interested in what it is that you have to tell them. So it's just like, sell it to them. Be like, hey, this is my book. This is what it has. This is great. But then also don't be desperate. Be confident, but not desperate. That balance, you know?
Good
I
balance.
think on a purely tactical level, I always recommend a website, a newsletter, so that you can collect readers and reviewers, and a way to contact people over and top, and then a social media platform, because you're going to want to be able to reach out and talk to people. And that social media platform is one that works for you. I don't have a specific one that I recommend, because there's often a market and an audience for your work, for your product in most of these platforms. You just have to find them, but you won't find them if you don't like using the platform. I'm not a TikTok person, so I just don't have a TikTok account that I use personally.
Well, and that kind of gets to it's a related question, particularly about social media and marketing. Chelsea, I loved how you talked about, we need to be confident and sell your book. What if you're a bad seller? And I'll expand on that. I'm an attorney. I have to find clients. A lot of times people think that means I go to businesses and sell myself. I don't like that. I cannot market that way because it feels insincere. So I've had to find other ways to find clients. So how do we do that in the book world if I have a hard time with social media, or maybe I'm not confident in selling myself? I know it's a good product, but how do I get it out there?
I think for everyone, it's more so about finding what's authentic to you, because if you are not the person, like some people are I'll say ambiverts, because as writers, generally blanket speaking, a lot of us are introverts. We're like, leave me alone in a room with my keyboard, let me do what I'm going to do. And if we could all just be Beyonce and just drop an album, drop a book, we absolutely would do that and live in our beach house with our library and never talk to anyone. We would all be hermits, right? But that's not how the world works. So it's just like, if that's not your natural vibe, or you're not the person who's like, hey, I have a product, that's not who you are, then I would say just I don't want to say sit with yourself, but like truly like just be like, okay, what do I feel comfortable with? Because if for you that's posting like once a week, then post once a week. That may not be like the tried and true advice on the internet for like if you're a content creator, whereas like you need to be posting multiple times a day. But it's like, if you know that you can sit down and be like, okay, I can talk about my book once a week and I can say that this is what it is. You can kind of lean into why you created the book, what you enjoy about your jobs. I know for a lot of writers, when we first get on social media, we're like, ooh, you know what I should do? Give writing tips. That is not for everybody. If that is not your bag, do not get into it. But if you can be like, this is why I wrote my book. This is what I like about my characters. This is what I like about the process. This is what I struggle with in the process. It doesn't have to be marketing your book, more so as just being present on the internet, because people will be attracted to your personality, and that in and of itself will sell your product. So just being present and active in a space is a lot easier, because like even if you go to a party and you're standing on the wall, people are still going to notice you, even if you're not the life of the party. And social media works very much the same way. As long as you're there, the people who are looking for you and want to notice you in a lot of ways will find you organically. And that works as selling your book.
Sara, do you have any? Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts, particularly, a digital marketer in your bio. Yes, tell me. And Sara, tell me what Sara thinks specifically in third person, if possible.
So it's really, really interesting, actually, because when Inspired Quill, so as a publishing house, not as an author, we went to lots of different events, and events are absolutely my jam. I absolutely love chatting to people. And what we find is that the times that we sell the most books are the times that we don't try to sell. So, for example, we enjoy, when we can, going to Worldcon, which is the big sci-fi fantasy convention that happens every year, different parts of the world. And we have, a choose your favorite author sticker chart each day, because it's like a 5-day event, and it's like a round robin thing. And we have a, try your luck, and we have a, talk to the person in the red shirt, which is always me, if you're interested in writing or getting into the industry. So a massive thing for us is engagement. We're not sat there going, buy this book, buy this book, buy this book. We're standing up, we're chatting to people. We've had people come over and be like, oh, this is the woman I was talking to you about. You need to talk to her. Well, I go and buy 3 of their titles. So, you know, it's definitely an engagement thing. And I think that's what was mentioned earlier in terms of it's absolutely vital to be authentic, because as a writer, as an author, it's really your brand in a way that folks really need to get behind. Because, you know, if I say, I don't know, who wrote The Lovely Bones or Water for Elephants, which have both been made into, you know, massive hit blockbuster films, most people go, oh, I know which one you mean, but I can't tell you the author. But if I said to you, tell me a book that Stephen King wrote, even if you've never read any Stephen King, you would be able to tell me something that he wrote, right? So that's how I would approach selling when you don't want to sell. It's more about engagement.
And I think Colleen, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Chelsea. I was going to move on, but if there's more on this topic, please. Yeah, and Wilson as well. Yeah, I'd love to hear. We can talk about this for the whole time if we want.
I wanted to add that I absolutely agree with Sarah in like being like, don't be like, buy my book, because it's just kind of like, just as we as individuals would never really want to interact with someone who's like super like, buy my book. If every time I interact with someone, they're like, hey, do you want to buy my book? Do you want to buy my book? I'm like, no, I'm going to like start avoiding you, because it's just like, cool. Like, I know you have a book, but also if I'm not going to buy your book, if I wasn't going to buy the first time, I'm not going to buy it the 50th time you tell me either. So just remember that people are people. And when you're trying to figure out how to talk to people about your book, just think about how you would want someone to talk to you about their book. And if it's just like the things you would naturally be curious about when you're talking to someone, that's what you should present first. Because just like, even when you go to like places like, I don't know where all you guys are from, but like Costco or like the warehouses where they give free samples, right? They're not, or not free samples, where they're trying to, you know, sell you stuff. They have the people set up and they're like, ew, buy this super massager for your neck that you absolutely do not need. You're like, did not come here for this. But they open up with, hey, how was your day? How are you doing? What are you looking for? Can I help you? And then they get you to ask questions about what it is that they're selling. So marketing your book is very much the same way. Like you interact with people as people, and then you casually throw in like, oh, I'm an author. And they're like, ooh, you're an author? What did you write? And now you have a way to genuinely talk about your book and go with the flow of a conversation, which is a lot easier than being like, hi, I am an author. I want to tell you about my book so that you can purchase it and add it to your bookshelf. Like, okay, that's cool. That's fine. I'm gonna tune out after like 3 seconds though.
Wilson, comment on this too, please.
No, Chelsea definitely hit the nail on the head, because I was just thinking the same scenario. Like, let's say for instance, it's my personal experience, but you know, at a Comic Con, you know, you meet people and everybody is really just enjoying the atmosphere, enjoying the mood. And yeah, sure, this is the target audience, you know. But what I think is super important is just the human connection. You know, at the end of the day, you know, there needs to be a genuine connection to you and the person that you're engaging with. And then that connection will lead to the connection you have in your books. And obviously you need to understand what it is that you are doing, what it is that you're creating, you know, and there's a story behind that. And being able to convey that story, you know, with the people around you, you know, is impactful. And, you know, just really at the end of the day, as long as you're able to have genuine connections, they'll be interested in what you have to say. It's really simple, you know, just saying hello, hey, how are you? You know, I mean, generally, it is a bit of a turnoff when everybody's trying to sell you something, you know, because that's all that they're about. I mean, unless you're going in hungry, you know, generally you're just browsing, you know. So I think what's important is just to be able to, one, care about your audience, care about the people around you, and two, look for cues and opportunities. Not everybody's a great speaker. I totally get that. If you have someone alongside you who is, allow them to take the lead. But if it is just you, then practice makes perfect. There's going to be hit and miss at the end of the day if it's not something that you're comfortable with. But if you have friends and family around you, practice with them. But the important thing is being able to illustrate what it is that you are trying to convey in your story, and being able to share that idea with other people effectively and as precise and quick as possible.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to play devil's advocate to all of this. I completely agree with that. Social media, being personable, not selling it is important. However, that's not the only way of doing promotions for your book. I do a lot of paid advertising promotions, where you're filling the funnel through advertising, through Facebook ads, AMS ads, and so on and so forth. That's another way of selling your book, promoting your book without actively being there as the person doing the sales. And I find that if you are not the most personable, if you've got a more analytical mind, if you've got the willingness and the funds, because it is paid promotion and it is going to cost you money, it is actually more efficient in some ways. I can set up an ad, I can scale that ad up, to $40, $50 a day, hit thousands and tens of thousands of people, and only adjust that once a week or every couple of weeks, which will give me a lot more ability to do things like that. So that is another option for people who aren't, as Kay says, out there very good at sales or being personable or doing all of these social media things.
And I think you've hit on a couple of things. Sara mentioned branding. Wilson, you mentioned audience, and I think Tao, yours kind of goes talking about marketing. You certainly need to know your audience. So I really want to hit on those two. Those are two buzzwords we hear about all the time in marketing. What is your brand and what is your audience? I want to hit, because it's come up, Wilson, Tao, how do we find what our audience is? Both just to sell more personably, or when we're actually talking about spending money on ads, because my goodness, you don't want to sell to someone who will never, ever, ever read your book.
Oh God. So audience is a weird one to talk about, because figuring out how to get or touch your audience to some extent depends on the advertising network or social media network that you're using, because they will give you different tools to go and touch them. If you're using Amazon marketing systems, the advertising AMS ads, you can look it up based off keywords. So if you're writing epic fantasy, you can look up epic fantasy. You can bid on epic fantasy. People who are doing that. You can also look up comparable books, and so you can bid on those comparable books. That's completely different from Facebook marketing, where you are doing it based off interest to some extent. So sometimes you can choose interest groups like urban fantasy, you can choose geographic locations, you can choose demographics, and so on and so forth. For things like that, Facebook ads and figuring out your audience there, that's a lot of research, and that's partly going onto social media, looking at who interacts and who talks about specific types of books, trying to see who the readers are who are actually reading your books. If you're in a genre that is already existing, go find some authors and talk to them. Ask them who their readers are, because they can often tell you, if they've been in it longer, who their readers are. Lit RPG is generally male. It's generally people in mid-20s up to mid-20s upwards. Most of it is concentrated in the United States, and a lot of audio readers. All of these things I can rattle off because I know that genre and I've been in it that long. Other people within that genre can speak about it.
What are anyone else? Any other comments on finding your audience, both from a advertising standpoint, but also just a marketing yourself? You need to find your reader, so you need to know your audience, right?
Well, I think that's super important because you need to know where your audience is congregating, right? You need to be able to identify them, age group, sex, and be able to cater specifically to them. That's target marketing, right? So if obviously, let's say you're talking about the elderly, then maybe consider looking at retirement centers, or local bingo parlors, whatever the case may be. If it's young people, look for family gatherings, maybe libraries, schools, wherever you think that general audience may be. And of course, this is just outside of social media. And then, of course, with social media, you need to know the demographic that's specifically on social media sites. Now, you would think, okay, any social media, everybody is on it, but not many young people are on Facebook, right? They're generally on TikTok. And so consider marketing to that target audience if it's a younger audience on TikTok. And at the end of the day, if you are able to locate specifically where that community is, regardless whether it's regarding race, ethnicity, you need to be able to locate them and be able to address the need within that community.
Chelsea, do you have anything to add to that?
Absolutely. Because I love everything that's being contributed here, because there are always two sides of everything. Because I don't do a whole lot of paid marketing. So what Tao was talking about, I'm sitting here listening like, yeah, that makes absolute perfect sense. And for me, when Wilson was talking about being mindful of where your audience is, that's one of the things that I talk to people about all the time, because it's just like if you're going to take out an ad, understand that not all of them are created equally. And when you're doing or building organically, your followership, whatever you want to call it, followship, whatever, on any platform, to be mindful of really who the target is on that platform, because Facebook is going to be generally speaking, your 40 up crowd. That's generally where they're going to be. Whereas, your millennials, I'll say, are generally going to lean more towards Instagram, because that's the one that a lot of us grew up with. And that was like the big one right after Facebook. So a lot of people have Instagram. And when you listen to advice, depending on when it came from, if you see an article written around 2014, 2015, they're going to tell you absolutely need an Instagram account. But then, in 2023, if you're looking, especially if you're writing like young adult or middle grade, you really kind of need to be on TikTok, because that's where that current age group audience spends most of their time. And being mindful of that and how you're reaching them, especially, again, if you're going to pay for something, it doesn't make sense to run an ad for a young adult book on Facebook if the majority of 14, 15, 16-year-olds are not using that platform. They may not see it. But also, as far as like reaching people, there's also, like Tao said, reaching out to people on those platforms and creating a community with them, so that, like, hey, if you are choosing to use TikTok, if you are choosing to do Instagram and you're trying to promote your book, having other people organically interact with your stuff. So like, if you're on Twitter, retweeting it. If you're on Instagram, reposting it. If you're on Twitter, resharing it or stitching it, so that the people whose target audience, where y'all overlap, are also seeing it. But that's something that you can do for free, because I'm all about free and under. The way the budget is set up, right? Like, especially if it's like your first book, or you're still very new to it, or you don't know how to navigate the analytics, you're still learning, and you're not ready to make that like financial investment, finding people who have a similar audience. So like, and knowing who it is that you're trying to market. So like, for me, I say that I write books about Black girls who aren't all that nice. So when I'm sharing my books, that's what I'm telling people my book is about. And I'm also using those hashtags. So the people who are looking for Black authors and they're looking for Black protagonists and female main characters, all of that's in the book. So it's like, okay, now the target audience is sort of searching you out and it's not you just finding them.
Sarah, do you have anything to add to this too, this conversation?
Yeah, just kind of piggybacking off what Wilson and Chelsea were saying about being where your audience is. I think it's also important to remember that if, for example, you're selling middle grade books, right? It's not necessarily those kids who are buying the books. It might be, you know, their parents on Facebook, for example. So it's really important to almost have a dual-pronged attack, shall we say. So you want to get their eyeballs on TikTok, so they go and tell their, you know, parents or guardians or whoever that, actually, I found this book, I really, really want this book, can you buy me this book? And then on Facebook as well, targeting the parents, guardians of, let's say. So finding out where, not only where your readers are, but where the purchasers are as well, I think is really important and can be a bit more nuanced and quite difficult sometimes, to be quite honest. I don't know what other folks have found in terms of if there's a split between who's buying their books and who's reading them.
I can say that for myself, can't say if it's right or wrong, but just like naturally, I err on the side of finding the person who's going to read it, mostly because the way I think about it is like if they're asking their parent, guardian, friend, auntie, uncle, cousin, whoever to get the book, they're organically telling other people about the book, so that guardian would be like, oh, you know, I'm going to tell the other cousins' parents about this book. And also, I'm like the person who is interested in the book, reading the book. They're also the ones who are going to be more likely to leave a review of the book, to talk about the book, to share the book. So it's just like, even if they never get it, well, they're talking about it now, which is half the battle of word of mouth, which is the biggest aspect of marketing that really you don't control. You just have to hope that you get it. So that's how I think. It also, the fact that, you know, time is a non-renewable resource. And if you're introverted, creating a lot, especially if you're leaning towards social media, because I think if you are taking out paid ads, for sure, cover all the bases. But if you're going I don't have any money, I just got to do this organically, then I think it's also important to be mindful. Like if this is not your bread and butter, like you don't like being on social media heavily, you kind of have to pick your battles. So, you know, just be mindful of wherever you choose to spend your time. And some things can cross platform, but some things are not great across platform, because TikTok, video wise, generally speaking, I know things are changing, but generally speaking, you kind of want to aim for like a 60-second video or shorter, especially if you're targeting children. But Facebook, you can have like a longer post with a lot more images, almost like a blog almost, and people will take the time to sit and read it. So those aren't necessarily two things that can cross over, unless you're just posting your script to Facebook, in which case go for it. Maybe that'll do what works for you.
Go ahead, Tao.
Sorry, I was just gonna answer a question of yours that was earlier, that about branding. And I think one of the things that is worth noting about author branding in particular, it's that your author brand is the parts of you that you do not mind having public. You showcase the parts of you that you don't mind being public, which is how you be authentic, and you still hopefully find some audience from it. And it can be very weird parts, you know, because if you've got a very specific interest, like, you know, hand sewing or whatever, you can still find people who are very interested in that area. And in some ways, the niche stuff gets even more passionate people involved.
Right.
But it can be as simple as, you know, your cats and your dogs and whatnot. That's a very popular, pets are a very popular thing.
I really like the way you put that it's the parts of you that you want to share. And so for some people, I assume, are willing to share their entire lives. For people who are really more focused on, I'm private, this is everything else about me is me, I only want to be the author part, how can they best present their author persona in a way that still feels authentic and not just selling? Chelsea, yes, hit me.
I love this because I am that person. So I'm just kind of like, hey, I'm an author, and I'm like, I don't talk about anything else on my author profiles. I have a husband. I don't post him on my socials. He's like the husband, right? He has a name, but he's like never on screen. I'm like, I have a family, like I'm doing stuff, but like that's just not what I share. I have a dog, but that's, again, he never makes an appearance unless it's relevant to what I'm talking about, like this moment. Like y'all are finding out stuff about me that other people on the internet have no idea about, right? So it's just kind of like kind of going what Tao said, like finding the parts of yourself that you don't mind. And if that's just the author part, that's totally okay. My advice for your author brand is it's twofold. One, it is not your book. I don't care how much you love your book. I don't care how much it is your book, baby. If your book cover is purple and orange for whatever reason, and you're like, I don't even like purple like that, your brand does not need to be purple. Pick a color that you like, because your brand is you, not your book, because your book is going to age. Your book, you're going to write other things. You're talking about a career, so one, do not make it your book. And two, your brand should be something that is sustainable, something that is who you are. So like, for me, like I said, I write books about Black girls who aren't all that nice. I know that every single book that I write going future is going to have a Black main character, and she's going to be what people consider a difficult woman. That's fine. I know that that's what I write. So like, if you're looking for my book, please do not come here looking for interracial romance. That's not what I write. I write fantasy, and it's very Black, right? But don't be afraid to lean in to what it is that you write and what you do. So it's just like, if you know that like you're writing comics, don't be afraid to say that this is what I do. This is my niche. This is the world that I live in. If you know that you're writing fantasy, lean into that. If you know you're writing queer stories, lean into that. Don't be afraid to say that this is who I am. This is what I write. And then also don't be afraid to let your brand adjust. Like, a brand is something that breathes. So as you grow as a person and as an author, your brand should grow with you. So if you started out writing like, ooh, I'm middle grade fantasy, I'm gonna write middle grade fantasy my whole life, and you've got like 10 books in the middle grade fantasy, you're like, bruh, if someone puts another 12-year-old in front of me, I might choke them. And you're like, I need to write adult stuff now, right? Then don't be afraid to be like, I write middle grade and adult. And it's like, there you go. You've adjusted, and your audience, maybe the mom of the 12-year-old you've been writing for 10 years, who's now 22, is now going to be your fan, But I'm gonna stop ranting. I just get excited about that. So I'm gonna just take a seat. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think what's really good for everyone listening to this is hearing that you can be successful and in just sharing the author part, because there are people who absolutely want to share their entire lives, and that is totally okay. And if that works, that works. But I think maybe we've gotten to a bit more of this entitlement, that I'm entitled to know everything about you, and I'm entitled to, who is Chelsea? Where does she live? What's her favorite food? Just as far as social media is concerned in general. And so I think it's good to hear that there is still a path to success on that aspect of it.
Absolutely. Just remember that, like, generally speaking, I know that there are children who are in this industry and entirely successful, but for the most part, blanket statement, just remember you're a grown person. And just like you wouldn't tell your whole backstory life to a stranger on the street, the internet is a stranger on the street. There are internet streets. Mind your business. Like, if I go to, if you're going to an event, essentially, because that's what the internet is. If you think about it like that, it's a business event. You're not going to go to a business event and be like, hi, do you want to see what I ate for lunch today? No, I don't. Why are we here? Like, we can talk, but like, that's a very interesting way to start if that's not something you feel comfortable talking about. Kind of going back to what we discussed earlier and approaching people as people, just kind of finding where the conversation goes naturally. And if you're like, I don't want to tell you where I live, don't tell them where you live. That's not information that you're entitled to. And you don't have paparazzi stalking you. So keep your secrets.
I think talking about, again, so going back to social media, this really all just seems to revolve around it, and indie marketing in general. We can't get away from social media. We've talked a little bit about how it does matter. I mean, I've got my list of questions on social media, and I think we've answered them. Does it matter which one you use? Well, it's going to depend on your market. How many sites should you join? As Tao told us, well, it depends on your market and it depends on your comfort level. level. What about when? When do I join? When should I start marketing, not just on social media, but in general? And if anyone has any other comments on the past questions, if I leapt over, go for it as well. I'm gonna call on someone. Okay, good. I was gonna say I'm gonna have to start calling on you now.
No, it's totally fine. Yeah. So obviously, the importance of being able to stand out is super important, because you are in a crowded field. And I think one of the important things is to market what you do in a way that helps it stand out. Like I'm probably not going to forget Chelsea's moniker, but you know, oh, actually, I probably just did, but it is. But what was it? Black girls that aren't just nice.
Aren't that nice?
I write stories about Black girls who aren't all that nice, and then on TikTok, I'm like, hi, my name is Chelsea, and I write books about Black girls who aren't all that nice.
And I like that, and I like that because again, it sort of stands out, you know, from the pack. Mine is a supernatural thriller based on Haitian folklore, and a lot of people are like, "What?" You know, I've never heard of that before, and so you know, and so that helps separating you from the pack. I like to use at times, or I'm beginning to use what I call a sleight of hand, where I will market what I have, but I'll use video or whatever, and then you know throw in, hey, by the way, here's this book, you know, and again, it's all relative, you know, but it's sort of like, oh well, you know, this is still related to what we're doing. I like this, you know, so it's being able to again stand out from the pack, being able to reach a broader audience. And that's where social media comes into play, and doing local events at the end of the day, because word of mouth really spreads. And if you're able to have a genuine connection with people, they're going to believe in what you're selling, and they're going to do the marketing for you.
Chelsea, comments. I thought.
Sorry, y'all. I feel like I'm talking way too much. I really love talking about all of this, but Wilson said something and I was just like, yes. So like kind of being able to like say that this is it, but like when he mentioned like being like, oh, also here's the book, like really
Sleight
being like the sleight of hand.
Sleight of hand. Yeah, I like that phrase.
And the thing is with my mindset, I'm also like, don't be afraid to let people know that you're an author, like every single time you have a conversation with them, and that is the point of reference you're entering into a conversation, because sometimes that's enough to just get people curious and interested. And it's very important not to let people forget, like, yes, even if you're talking about something that's not book related, because that's something that on my social media, I do a lot of things. I talk about writing, I talk about books, I interview authors, I do all of that. But at the end of the day, I'm also like, I'm an author and this is my book. I'm not telling you what my book is about. I'm not advertising my book, but I'm reminding you that, hey, even in this conversation, I am still a professional author, and to be mindful of that. And I think sometimes, especially with social media, as we're talking about being organic and stuff, sometimes that can kind of slip away from us because we're trying to people first. And it's just like, yes, people, but also as a people, you are also letting people know what it is that you do and who you are. And it's okay to let them know without being like, you need to buy my book right now, but like, this is who I am. And I really like that, Wilson was talking about adding that in. So it's just like, if you do create content of any kind, that's just something very simple, just adding it into your bio or adding a single link at the bottom of your description of your podcast or your YouTube video, or, a post that allows links, because, TikTok and Instagram don't really let you link in captions, but, just being like, this is it. Or if you have a link tree or whatever, it doesn't have to be necessarily the first link in there, but you should have something in there to be like, oh, by the way. And I got excited. I'm gonna take a seat back because I've been talking a lot.
I absolutely love that, Chelsea, because I think one of the things is people don't know what they don't know, right? So if folks don't know you're an author, how are they meant to know you're an author to buy your book, right? And I know I've had it in the past where, so Inspired Quill isn't my day job, and I'll be chatting to someone at work, I've been at this place of work for 3 years or whatever, And I go, oh yeah, we've got a book coming out this weekend. Oh, you're an author? No, I run a publishing house. And their face just goes, wait, what? I've known you for 3 years and I don't know this about you. So, you know, I've definitely fallen foul of that in the past. And as you say, it's almost like sometimes we try too hard to people and not to, you know, sell kind of thing. But yeah, folks don't know what they don't know. So if you want them to buy something, you've actually got to put it in front of them or give them the opportunity to ask more, for sure.
Yeah. And I think with that kind of goes back to what we said at the beginning. It's like you have to be confident, because I know, especially if your first book hasn't come out or you're like, I just published my book myself, it's one of those things where it's very self-humbling that you kind of have to unlearn, where it's like, oh, I just published my book. Like, no, you published a book. Like, you are an author. You did the thing. So when you're talking about yourself to other people, I am an author. That's a whole sentence. Not I'm an author, but I self-publish. I'm an author. You don't need to explain it. I am an author. This is my book. Leave it at that. And they can allow them to make their own judgments, because the minute you tell them what to think about you, then you've kind of warped the narrative into your own kind of self-doubt. So move with confidence, even if you don't feel that way. And the easiest way to do that, as someone who has to like unlearn it very frequently, is to take out all the modifiers in your sentence, just like you would, and just practice it. I am an author, not I'm a self-published author, not I did this, but I did this. No conjunctions. I am an author, period. This is my book, period. It's about this, and leave it at that, and let people do their own research if they're interested, and let them kind of come to you without you, like I said, self-humbling yourself in an effort for them to not be like, oh, you only did it yourself. If they do that, they weren't going to buy your book anyway, and you can give them all the verbal flogging you need to do, because how dare they try to demean what you do. And ask them if they ever tried to sit down and write 100,000 words and have it be interesting. Just ask them, because it's hard.
The answer's always no. It's always, oh, but I don't have the time.
Exactly.
Anyway, sorry, I and answer Kay's earlier question about it and tie it back into the part about what to do if you don't want to be an author, don't want to show anything else other than your author. One of the things I like doing is showing my work. If you're doing a lot of research on a specific area for your book, show it. You know, you come across little bits and pieces of history or social studies or whatever that doesn't necessarily fit into your book or doesn't make sense to go and put into a book. That's what social media is useful for. You can show what you're doing, make it interesting. And that's part of your author journey, because, you know, you're writing this thing in this 90,000 words or 120,000 words, and you can talk to people about what you're writing. It can interest them in the work that you're writing. You can show people a part of your process in there. And that can also start before you've published your book, because you can do it while you're writing it. And so you can start building that. You don't have to go heavy promotions, you know, buy my book or whatever, or it's going to be launching. You can start doing that as you're writing. And that is a partial answer to Kay's thing.
Well, and you answered the other question that I'd asked earlier, which was really when to join, when is it too early to start marketing and start joining social media. And so I love that you can build your audience before your book's even out. That's great. Any other comments? Is it ever too early, I guess, is the question. Is it ever too early to start marketing?
I would say no. I think it's really important, once you feel comfortable to like present yourself as an author, that's when you need to start, because a lot, especially if you are specifically going the route of organic social media marketing, if you plan to incorporate other paid marketing and another marketing tactic, that's great. But specifically, if you're like, I just want to go the organic route, having a presence online where people know that you are a person, you're not a bot, and building a community on whatever platform you choose is really, really important. It's never too early to start building that, letting people know that you're an author, that you have a book coming. You might not have a title, you might not have written anything past the first page, but you're an author and you have a book coming. The date hasn't been set, the title hasn't been set. Give it a project like Project Dark Horse or whatever, and be like, ooh, I'm working on it, and just, I've got 100 words today. And just let people know, if you're doing research, this is the research that I found. I thought it was really interesting. I want to share it with you guys, and anything you feel comfortable sharing about your journey. I say start as early as possible. And also, this is just a pet peeve of mine. Take it with a grain of salt. My 2 cents, spend it how you like. Please, if you can, and you're setting it up from the very beginning, make your handle the same across platform, because it makes it so much easier to, when you're like doing stuff like this, if you have an intro, outro, people are trying to find you. If it's the same across platform, it's a lot easier for people to find you and build a following cross platform. And set up your newsletter, because Tao mentioned it in the very beginning, and how that is a really strong way to reach readers, because as we have all seen in 2023, Instagram, TikTok, they will go down, and it will be terrifying if you have 10,000 followers and that's the only way to reach your readers. If you have a newsletter, that is your way to reach them, and you can set it up. You might not send anything out. It might just have it set up and you have a welcome letter like, thank you for signing up. And when you're ready to send something out, that's when you'll do it. So like, I had a newsletter for like 3 years before I sent out the first one. And it's just like, I only had like 10 people, but after my book came out and I got consistent with it, it grew to over like 150 people. And it's like, okay, now we have something to work with. And then that's when you can kind of get into those exclusives. So set it up when you're ready. Don't be afraid to allow it to sit there, and don't let anybody talk you into saying that you have to give something away for free to get people to sign up for your newsletter, because that's a lie. It's a scam. Okay. Like, if you're not that person, it works. But it's also, I just say that from the place of like, if you're one of those authors and you're like, I can't afford to like write something to give away for free, then you don't have to do that. But if you do it, for sure it works. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no. You don't have to. It does work though. I do like adding things like bonus epilogues to my books to get people to sign up for it, for the newsletter. I am going to interject quickly, and then I'm going to hand it over to Wilson. If you are looking at advertising, paid advertising, it is incredibly hard to make paid advertising work, especially Facebook, with less than 3 books in a series, or roughly between 7 to 9 books if you've got a standalone. It's possible. It's really hard. Fiction, nonfiction is a whole different ballgame. Wilson?
Yeah, let's do Wilson, and then I'd like to hear from Sara on this topic too.
I thought she was first, but I'll go ahead with anything. But yeah, I think definitely if you are trying to reach a target market, reaching out to them in that way is excellent, like with newsletters. I think, and also giving away free stuff. I've had some experience with that. And it's pretty cool, actually. I mean, if you can set yourself a budget, because it's also important to invest in what you do, right? If you believe in it, invest in it. And if you're able to, if you don't have those financial restrictions, like I've given away cups and t-shirts. I have hats right there. I don't know if you can see it. Don't be afraid to also, plaster yourself like a billboard, as well, because I think the success in marketing is repetition. You hear it over and over and over and over and over again. Eventually it gets stuck in your head, and so I think that's super important to be consistent in that as well. When I do go to the Comic Cons, I need to be able to stick out. And so I give away little raffle tickets and hey, check out our booth. You might win something, That's all just a marketing strategy at the end of the day. Maybe I'll have artwork that I don't mind giving away, like, again, something that is tangible for me and relevant. And, like I give away bookmarks, with Darkchild on it, so again, it's just marketing, marketing your product, making it almost a household name in a sense, whenever they see your logo or hear, a supernatural thriller based on Haitian folklore, they'll instantly say, oh yeah, that's Darkchild, without them having even to say the name. Just do it. We all know who that is, so that's just the way it works.
Awesome. Sara, any comments on this discussion?
I love all of it. everything that everyone said has been heckin' amazing. Wilson, I love what you just said about consistency, and as a sort of digital marketer in my day job, if you like, consistency is absolutely key. And I think that goes back really well to what you were saying, Chelsea, about the consistency of handles across different social medias. So something that I do with Inspired Quill, everything is just Inspired Quill, capital I, capital Q, everywhere. I have that handle on sites where I will probably never publish anything. So yeah, like set up your profile, absolutely send people to where you want them to go in case they stumble across you. But that level of consistency is really, really important for sure. And just to mention as well, in terms of the newsletter, one of the really important things is this idea of consent. So you've got someone's email address, they have given you their email address, which means that they want to hear from you, right? I don't know currently what's happening with all of the algos on all of the platforms across everything at the moment, but I see things that, like, have I followed them accidentally while I was sleeping? Because that is not someone that I normally want on my feed. So there's this thing of creating this community and having the consent of someone to pop into their inbox every now and again, and it's so powerful, especially when I think, Chelsea, you were saying earlier, like, these sites have gone down for however long, or someone can shadow ban you from Facebook for something that you didn't actually do, or someone recently unfortunately hacked into my personal Twitter account and I lost sort of 10 years worth of tweets, unfortunately. But that wouldn't have bothered me so much if I'd have had an email newsletter. Not that I need it for personal stuff, but it's the same kind of concept. It kind of gives you that fallback as well, which is incredibly important, especially when you work so heckin' hard to build up this brand, because quite often as well, I'm very, very bullish on websites. It's kind of, what I do. I love SEO. That's kind of, my day job content, all of that. But it's not for everyone. And unless you put a lot of time and effort into building an amazing website with great user experience and conversion rate optimization and amazing SEO principles, which is, let's be honest, a job in itself, having that fallback of a newsletter is, it just helps so much, for sure.
I want to ask a question, and I want every single person to answer, because I think the answers are going to be wildly different, and which will be great for the audience because it will tell us all the different ways that it works. And then I just hope it doesn't start a virtual fist fight. So my questions are going to be, what is the best marketing method that you can think of, and what one do you think is just a complete waste of time? And that's where I think the fist fight might come in, because we're all going to have different ideas. But that's what I want to hear from you, is the best piece of advice you can give someone marketing. Is the best thing you've done, and then what's the worst thing that nope, not for me, never will work, that sort of thing. So Chelsea, I'd love to start with you, because your facial expression tells me you're really excited for this one.
Okay.
Sorry.
Best piece of marketing advice is community, whichever way that you can, because at the end of the day, all of the things that we're talking about, especially if we're talking about organic social media, because that's kind of where I lean towards very heavily, you need a community. You need people who are going to engage with you, and part of having a community is being a part of a community. So it's not just, oh, I'm posting stuff and I'm interacting with people on my posts. It's also, I'm following people, I'm engaging with them. I have mutuals where we support each other, and having a support system where it's just like, if you want to do a cover reveal, being able to reach out and be like, hey, I'm planning to do a cover reveal in a week. Do you think you can help me with that by like boosting this? Which is honestly not cringe, as long as you know the person, but do not ask strangers on the internet to boost your post, because it's like, who are you? I don't know you. We've never had a conversation. What? So that would be my biggest thing. Like, just find your community and don't be afraid to rely on them, and also to show up for them so that you can actually support each other in organically growing. My least favorite piece, my piece of advice where I'm like, I probably will never be caught doing this. We've talked about it. I don't give away free stuff to get people to sign up for my newsletter. Never have, probably never will. Mostly because a lot of times from the advice that I have heard, right? It's like, oh, give away like a short story or give away something where in theory it doesn't cost you anything. But it's just like the way my brain is set up and the way my stories are written, homie, a short story is still going to be like 40,000 words. So I cannot do that, cannot set it up to give it away for free. And also my perfectionism means that it also has to have a cover, it also has to be edited. And now after all of that, it's a book and I have to make money back on this. So my newsletter is very much like I will send you updates and I will include discounts in early access and things like that, and communication about like what's going on, when is my next book coming out. And like for We Are Dying Gods, I was like, oh, I have a pre-order box that's limited. Y'all get first dibs on it. But I'm not like, oh, if you sign up for my newsletter and I'm going to send you a free story or I'll send you a character sheet for this character. The way my time is set up, I can't give something away for free. That's just how I am. And I know that it works, but I'm also a big fan of like, it doesn't have to work because they sign up and they really not getting nothing. They really riding for you. Like that's for real. Like you're true. They're invested in you and not just signing up for like to inflate the numbers to get something. Because I know I've heard author stories of people who did something for free. They got a huge influx of people signing up. Then they also had a huge influx of people unsubscribing once that first newsletter after they signed up went out. And I was just like, yeah, the way my heart is not set up to take that kind of damage, not even gonna set myself up for that. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Chelsea. Wilson, I want to go to you. So the best piece of marketing advice that you can give or that's worked, and then the worst thing, something that has not worked for you or you don't think would work.
Yeah, I guess I'm a people person at the end of the day. I love engaging, seeing the real world at the end, like being able to go to shows, to cons, to do speaking engagements, meeting people at bookstores. Frankly, it's really fulfilling because again, you get to share your story on a personal level. You get to meet people face to face. Sure, it might be a bit slow because you have to get from location to location to location. But what I do find is that you really do build an audience, a faithful audience, frankly. Because I remember someone asking, are you going to do, another book? Because, it really irks me when someone doesn't continue a book, and just hearing that was motivation enough for me to just continue creating another book. So for me, I do like in-person engagements. It's real numbers at the end of the day, and you get a sense of who your audience is as you see them regularly. What I don't like as much is relying on likes to give you an indication of whether your book is profitable. I think a lot of marketing companies have made the mistake in seeing, like, let's say I'll use Twitter, for example. You get a lot of followers, you get a lot of likes, but nobody's buying, there seems to be a detachment from there. And it's really being able to strike people who are actually actively seeking what you're looking for and meeting them there. If it is on social media, that's fantastic. You got YouTube videos where you have artists doing, art videos, and they're meeting their audience there. And once in a while, they're plugging their book or they're plugging whatever course that they're doing online. So you're finding an active and engaging audience. And honestly, I find social media at times to be a bit deceptive and knowing whether or not you're actually reaching the people that you're actually reaching out to. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Sarah, I'm going in, it's in order in my screen. Sarah, if you could tell us best piece of advice. Yeah, Tao, what I'm saying is I'm not leaving you for last for any like particular reason, but unless we want to make one up. But Sarah, if you can go next, tell me best piece of advice, cool. Worst piece or piece that didn't work for you.
So in true SEO style, I'm going to say the best, it depends. and the worst is anything that you hate doing, because you're never going to be consistent with it. To expand on that a little bit, I would say that for me, the best marketing advice is stuff that you own, right? So your newsletter, your website, going to events, etc. And the reason I say that is, you know, we've all seen in the last 6 months with, you know, Twitter and Facebook especially, but also, you know, these TikTok bans and you know, Snapchat being wobbly sometimes, and you know, generative AI coming in. So even in some respects on you know, search engines, that the whole SEO world is a bit like, oh, what's going on at the moment? If you own something and you have that brand awareness and you have people on your newsletter, which you own the newsletter, you've got a website that you own, that's really, really powerful. I would say also like events, for example, not that you necessarily own the event, but you own yourself and you go to them, you've got the product. Wilson, I love what you were saying earlier about the different, you know, bits of swag and stuff, bookmarks for life, and all of that kind of stuff is absolutely fantastic. In terms of the worst stuff, I guess it's the sort of false sense of security, ironically, you sometimes have with paid stuff. So Tao, I could pick your brains absolutely all day, because I think it's amazing how a lot of authors with this read through, so you've got to have X amount of books to make it worth your while, manage to, you know, get a positive ROI, so return on investment on that. The challenge there, of course, is, oh, I'm spending, you know, $20-$30 a day, so it should work, right? And there's so much more to it than that. Like Tao's like nodding it, like, yeah, oh gosh, yeah, there really is. But that's a bit of unfortunately a misconception that folks have, or just set it and forget it, and you just can't. So it's more really to do with being mindful about where you're spending your time, where you're spending your money. And burnout is real, folks. Like if you absolutely hate TikTok, you're gonna maybe, you know, last 3 weeks and then that's it. And people are going to be like, oh, where did that person go? And they're just going to assume that you fell off the face of the earth. So yeah, owned media, good. Stuff you hate, bad.
Love it. Love it. Tao, last but not least, tell us.
No problem. Best, I think everyone will agree on this. You need to write a really damn good book. Everything else kind of comes on top of that. Setting that aside, you know, that's almost a minimum requirement in many ways. Promotional wise, I actually really enjoy Facebook advertising. I find it's the easiest for me to scale. It's gotten harder. Like the last few years has been brutal in terms of how the ROI, the return on investment, has just kept on dropping. And you have to, it's constant learning, constant change, constant trying to figure out how to make it work. I should note that, as Sarah says, it does require a lot of work. I have a head start because I used to do digital marketing as my day job kind of thing. But for me, that's the easiest and that's the most useful. Paid newsletters are probably the second best and easiest for people to go through. Much lower cost of entry, much better ROI in general. That being said, my worst result of anything that and it cost me a ton of money for it, was a book bump new release alert. That just, I think it's a few $100 and did absolutely nothing. So I would avoid that and I would never do that again.
Awesome. All right, last question before I'm going to go to the, you know, you guys are content creators, you're speakers, teachers, and you're also authors. We're gonna go to that so you can tell me all about your books and where we can find you. The very last question, what is the most unconventional advice, I suppose, you can give someone? And it's an unconventional method that maybe a lot of people don't think of. And I'll give you an example. A broken blade. I'm not even on TikTok, and yet I still learned about this authorless book that was sent to various reviewers, got a huge, massive following. And the author, and I don't know the author's name, but I certainly remember the book. It was called The Broken Blade. She skyrocketed, it was very popular. Everyone was trying to find this out. That was a really interesting and I think an unconventional marketing idea. I don't know that it can be repeated, but something like that. What's an unconventional method that many might not think of, that maybe has worked for you, without sharing your secret so that everyone else does it? I know that there's a balance there. Sorry, guys.
Sarah, sorry, you can go first.
It's kind of like when someone says, how do you go viral, right? The whole thing is no one knows really. One thing that I love the idea of, and I'm determined to make it happen with one of the Inspired Quill books one day, I just have to, strong arm the right author to do it, is releasing a book with multiple endings. I would heckin' love to, you have no idea. I would love to do that so much. So exactly the same book, 2, maybe 3 different endings, packaged the same cover, all of this, and then send specifically out to different reviewers and different blog tours and that sort of thing, different versions of the book. So people are like, oh, that's not what happens. And just kind of play with it a little bit.
I like that Clue did that movie, and I loved, although I think if I were in the theaters back, because you can only go to the theater, I would have been aggravated to which ending I got. But you'd have to go back and see the rest of them. So that is a really unconventional idea. Chelsea, you had maybe something to say on this.
I was going to say, don't try to be popular, mostly because it's exactly what Sara said. Trying to go viral, if that's what you're achieving, that's not going to be it. And also, create content especially if you are going to be social media heavy. Create content on some platform, whether that's a podcast, a YouTube channel, if you want to be a TikTok creator, whatever. Create something outside of your book. And it's kind of unpopular because it's what, you want me to do more work? But if you want to be in the space, especially if you're chasing full-time authorship, a lot of times you kind of need another platform where it's like Sara said, it's yours. So it's your podcast, it's your channel, that's your content that no one else can take away from you. And it's also something where let's be real here, reading a book is a huge time investment for a lot of people. That's multiple hours that you're trying to get someone to give up, and you're fighting against literally every other distraction on the planet: TV, family, cooking dinner, walking the dog, playing video games, whatever. So have your content where it's just okay, there's another way for people to find out who you are as a person. More work for sure, but also it's something that becomes your own personal marketing platform. If you have your own podcast, you can talk about your book whenever, however you want to. If you have your own YouTube channels, even if it's not book related, that's still your platform to remind people who you are and what you can do. And as long as you're not trying to be popular, it's kind of like high school, as whether you were successful in high school or not. If you're trying to be popular, you're not going to be popular. That's just kind of how it works. Either you are or you aren't. It just kind of live in the truth of who you are.
I love that. Thank you, Chelsea. And minus the flashbacks to high school. That was great advice. All right, Wilson, Tao, any and unconventional tips to close us out?
Yeah, sure. So trade-wise, I'm an animator. I do 3D and 2D. And I have been experimenting with ideas as far as marketing, and I've been working on separate projects as well, book related, but separate. And the way I'm going about it is I'm creating animated content, specifically for children. And that's allowing me to produce or generate an audience. And then here's the sleight of hand, what I'm really selling, you know? And so now I've created this audience, and it's slowly growing little by little. And it's still, again, it's all related to the same content. It's actually to help children learn math. And it's still related. But at the same time, it's introducing the very concept that we were hoping to push. And what's great about that, I find, is that you're able to gauge your audience, see if you can catch their engagement without having to put in a lot of work trying to push and boost what you're actually doing. Because again, you want to be able to have a microphone, a soapbox, and have people around you to hear what you're saying. They just need to know that you're there. And that's the tough part. Being able to let people know, hey, I'm doing something, look at me. And so if you're able to capture an audience, then when you're able to present something even more mind-blowing than what you've already produced, they're hooked. And it won't be anything surprising because you've already been creating a content that was already engaging to begin with. And that's pretty much the marketing tip or idea that I'm going to be using and introducing with Dark Child as well. So yeah.
Awesome. All right, cool. Tao, close us out.
Yeah. I don't know how strange this is, but I actually like writing shorts. I like submitting shorts to various journals, to various, places. Haven't had a huge amount of success, but when you do have it, you're actually introducing yourself as a writer to some new audiences that other people have created for you and that will be marketing it for you, and you get paid for it, which is really nice. And I also find that whatever content I write in shorts, I can always repurpose for my newsletter, to resell, hopefully to put together an anthology once I have enough. So I personally actually really enjoy doing that. I know it doesn't work for everyone, but it's a way of working on your craft, getting paid for it, and it really reaching a new audience.
No, I think that's awesome. And again, it just tells there are lots of different paths to get to success. With that, thank you all so much. I would love to give you an opportunity. I know that I told a little bit about you and what you guys have going on in the intro, but I want this to be your opportunity to do and hey, by the way, I'm an author and here's where you can find me. So we'll start with you since you were last on that last question. The last two questions, actually. I'm sorry about that. So you are first now. Tell me where we can find you, what you got coming up.
Oh, you can find me on pretty much most of the major websites. I have audiobooks, paperbacks, everything that you've heard earlier on. You can find everything listed by publishing website, starletpublishing.com. And my next book will be the book 9 of the 1,000 Li series, which is the one that you see pictured there. That's book 1.
Awesome. Thank you. Wilson, will you go next? We're going in reverse order, basically, from the last question.
Sounds good. Yeah, you can find me at g7comics.com. All the links will be on the site. That's G7 Comics with an S. You can also find me on Facebook, Dark Child Comics, and Instagram as well, Dark Child Comics. So I think I'm just grateful to be here, to be able to share what I do with a bunch of talented authors. And yeah, hope for the best for everyone's success.
That was great. And where can we find Dark Child, by the way? If one of our audience members wants to go find this, Wilson, where can we find it?
Yeah, we're on Amazon as well, but the links will be on our website, g7comics.com. And you can take a look at that. It's on Amazon and a couple of other sites as well.
Good deal. Sara, where can we find you? What have you got coming up?
So you can find us at inspired-quill.com. All of our books are on the site. You can buy them in paperback or ebook versions. All of our books are also available pretty much anywhere you can buy books. Not always on the shelf, you have to ask for them, but they can get them, I promise. the next book that we have coming out, or actually we've just released a book called Glass Girl by Dorothy Windsor, which is a YA fantasy novel, which is amazing. We have, I think, 55 books now in our back catalogue. So yeah, it's getting up there. It's getting up there. And as I said earlier, finding us on social media, it's Inspired Quill, all one word, capital I, capital Q. Don't laugh at my 3 Instagram posts, but Twitter, we're a little bit more up to date on. And if anyone wants to, chat about the publishing industry, or their novel or whatever, we're not currently open for submissions, but I'm always up for grabbing a virtual coffee with folks and teaching them a bit more about the industry or marketing or whatever. It's one of the ways that I try to give back, because Inspired Quill is also a not-for-profit. Can't remember if I mentioned that. So yeah, feel free to get in touch through the website.
Great, thank you so much. And then Chelsea, what have you got coming? I see your book. What have you got coming up? Where can we find you?
All right, so I am on the internet at C Lockhart Write. So C as in Chelsea, Lockhart is in my last name, Write, WRITE, on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I don't really deal with Instagram because the way creating visuals is not for my brain at this current moment in time. Twitter and TikTok are kind of where I'm at most of the time. You can also check me out on my website, which is just cmlockhart.com. That's where I keep everything up to date. And over here is We Are Dying Gods. It is the second book in my Wrath of the Gods series, and it is a fantasy series about a group of assassins who have to work together to save their gods in their realm from destruction. It is coming out August 29th. The first book, We Are the Origin, is already out. It is available wherever books are sold. And if you are like, Chelsea, I ain't paying for it, that's cool. Just go to your local library, request it. That'll help both of us out. So it's We Are the Origin is also available as an audiobook if that's something that you're into. So check it out. I also have a newsletter if you're into what I'm doing on the side, but I also have a podcast where I talk about all things bookish and writerly. I have a YouTube channel where every Tuesday, not every Tuesday anymore, but on Tuesdays we have the Melanin Chat where we talk about what's going on in the bookish world from the perspective of me and my co-host of Black women and authors, indie authors specifically. And I also run the Melanin Library, which is just melaninlibrary.com. And it's an online database for books by Black authors that are sorted by age range and genre so that you can find what you're looking for. There are more than 3,000 books on the website. So hopefully you can find something that you are looking for. And I think that's everything. That's the whole spiel. Oh, I also have a company called Written in Melanin. That's kind of over everything. So there we go.
I love it. I love it. We can find you where all books are sold and on almost every corner of the internet, it sounds like, which is fantastic. Thank you all so much. Our panelists are absolutely fantastic. We still have some time for this panel. So several, maybe all, I'm not sure. It depends on when this ends up being scheduled, will be there live the day of to answer questions in the chat box. So hang around for a few minutes. And with that, thank you all again so much.